Hi, welcome to Stories of Retirement, Real People, Real Stories. On today's show, we have with us Jerry Papin, who served with me in the Utah Army National Guard many moons ago. Jerry, welcome to the podcast.
It's great to be here. Thank you, Martin.
Yeah, I will tell the listeners briefly what Jerry and I did together is we helped run the Officer Candidate Program, which means we're kind of like a drill sergeant for future officers. We yelled at people, we were mean to them, we tried to induce as much stress as possible. And I often get this question, why are you guys such jerks? Why are you so mean? And here's why. We're trying to replicate the stress of combat without killing people and then have them make decisions, have them think. And can they think clearly under extreme duress? That's why we do it. We do it because we care and we want them to survive. We want your children who are following them into combat to also survive. That's why we do that. So
You bet. There's a mantra, of course, in the armed forces, particularly the Army: train like you fight, which means we try to train and we try to build under conditions as close as we can replicate to what you're going to experience in war. Anyone who's ever been anywhere near the vicinity of a book, a movie, a TV show about war knows that it's chaos. And that's what we try to create, at least at the beginning of an officer candidate school, is a lot of pressure, a lot of chaos, a lot of feeling like you don't have what it takes to get through it. And then you find within yourself the ability to get through it. You do it now in training, you're much better prepared for it when it becomes the real thing.
I agree. I can remember yelling at someone to give up or just go home or whatever the case was. But on the inside, I was rooting for them. And when they finally start to kind of emerge from that chaos and start to have some coherence and some thoughts and some good thoughts and actually start solving problems under all that duress, it's a great feeling. So I was always,
Oh, and they build
inside,
that confidence.
Yeah.
They realize they do have what it takes.
That's right. Yes. I wonder if I can apply that to my financial planning business. Start yelling
You
at
know,
my clients.
it seems to me in all the years I've known you, you've done an outstanding job of doing exactly that.
Yes. All right. Well, hey, Jerry, like everyone here, we'd like to start the interview by you telling us a little bit about just kind of your career, your life from college until yesterday. What's been going
You
on
bet.
with you?
Essentially, I've had 2.5 careers in my life. I had a military career. If you want, we can talk a little more about that. I've had a civilian career. Same applies. And then on the side, I've done a long life's path. I've encountered opportunities or things that made me curious enough to give them a shot. And I've dabbled in other things here and there along the way. But primarily, it was a parallel military and civilian career.
All right. So tell us about your civilian career first.
My civilian career, I kind of stumbled into being very much, you and I had similar tracks. I stumbled into being a financial advisor, investment manager. And then as that evolved over the course of decades, ultimately I ended up creating my own private firm, a boutique firm, which we were the home office, so to speak. And I specialized in retirement planning. Of course, we did the gamut of investment management and financial advisory services, but in retirement planning was kind of my bailiwick. And then I brought in a partner along the way, one of the smartest business moves I ever made. And ultimately, through deliberate intent or dumb luck, I managed to follow most of my own advice, and I was able to retire relatively young. I retired at about 45 years old.
45, wow.
And was able to and then able to get into a whole new passel of trouble after I retired.
So when you retired at 45 from being the financial advisor, were you still in the military then, or did both careers end roughly the same time?
Both ended roughly the same time. And my retirement as a financial advisor, unlike the military, my retirement as a financial advisor was not a point in time. It wasn't a particular date. It just kind of I very slowly wound down. So real quickly, after a major military deployment in 2009 and 10, when I got back, is when I decided it was time to really take my firm private and just run it the way I wanted to see it run and do things for clients the way I felt was best to do them. That's when I brought in the partner. By 2011, we had spun independent and we had our formal partnership, had set up our structure our way. By 2013, she was doing all the work, had all the client relationships. She's always been better at it than I am. And so by 2013, we lapsed my licenses. I did not renew my licenses, and she and I switched roles. She became the public-facing person, and I became the back office person. And then even that, she didn't need me around anymore. So by 2014, 15, I was basically showing up to keep her company. And by early 2019, she said, I really like you a lot, but I'm not sure what your purpose is. And so it's
Right.
time for you to sell me your half of the business.
That sounds
And
like
that's
something that a lot of wives would say to their husbands.
right.
I like you, but I'm not
That's
sure what your purpose is.
right.
Can
And
you
so
clarify
early
that?
2019, I sold out.
Okay. Retiring at age 45 is unusual. Are you glad you
Sure.
did that? I mean, and how are you able to do that?
Without a doubt, I'm glad I did it. I'm
Right?
fortunate in life. I can look back on my life and I genuinely have no regrets. I
Right?
have a whole bunch. I have truckloads of gee, chucklehead, what were you thinking? I've got a
Right?
lot of those, but I don't have regrets. I certainly don't regret retiring. I've enjoyed every moment of being retired, and I keep getting better at it, which is
Right?
a win as well. How I was able to do it uh, is a confluence of a couple things. I've been very fortunate in life. More often than not, things break my way than break against me. And again,
Uh-huh.
heaven knows I could catalog a long list of things that did not go my way, either because of my own failures or that's just the cards life dealt me. But more often than not, or at least it seems that way to me as I look back, things kind of broke my way. There's the old adage, success is when opportunity meets preparation.
Right?
And I think that was the other part of why I was able to retire early is I prepared along the way. I always had my eye on that prize long term. So any decisions, for the most part, decisions I made along the way were with that ultimate goal, that ultimate intention. And
Okay.
I was able to make smarter financial choices because I wasn't living in the now so
Hmm.
much as I was living for what was coming.
Okay, so let's take you back, if you can remember, to say age 35, 10 years out from you retiring. Was that the intention and goal then, to retire at 45? Or did the retirement at
I
age
never had
45 kind of just happen?
not a good answer, but the answer to the question, both questions, is yes.
Right,
Um, I had married early. My wife and I had children right away. It was going to work out that we were going to have an empty nest in our early 40s.
okay,
And so generally the design was, wouldn't it be great if we could be in good financial circumstances about the time the kids leave the home, still relatively young, travel the
right,
world, go to the moon, all those things. The marriage didn't last, but the finances continued to work in that direction. And
okay,
then the other part of it kind of happening by the time I was 35 years old, I was very successful in business. I had a successful military career. I had remarried. I was thoroughly enjoying the satisfaction of accomplishment.
right,
I had reached a place in my military career that I was really starting to climb the ladder and do neat, fulfilling things. I'd
right,
reached a place in my civilian career that I was successful and I created my own thing rather than a franchise or working under some other corporate structure.
hmm,
And I mentioned earlier those 2.5 careers. I was doing a lot of other things that interested me and I found personally fulfilling that also turned out to be fairly profitable. And I'm going
okay,
to go back to that. Success is when opportunity meets preparation.
yeah,
I had
uh,
not intentionally, intentionally to a point, but not with any specific design. I'd always kind of prepared myself for what comes next, what's coming down the line, and what do I need to do now to be in the best position to deal with it when it comes, whatever it is. And so the confluence of all of that, yeah, having a rough goal, like to retire in my early 40s, to, well, as I make decisions, we'll aim at that. Another military axiom, as you well know.
hmm,
In the Army, we say, well, in the military, we say, no plan survives contact with the enemy.
right,
Well, it's the same with life. No plan survives contact with life. Life is going to happen and you're going to have to react to it. But if you prepare, if you have a plan, something you're aiming at, when life happens, all those unexpected things, you're at least in a position where you're better able to deal with them and hopefully
right.
still get to the end place that you're trying to get to.
Okay.
That's what happened for me.
Something comes to my mind, an old adage I really like, and I think you've kind of lived that. It basically says, and I'm paraphrasing here, that when mistakes happen, what'd you call them? I think goofball moments, I think you called them, or something like that.
Right.
But we'll call it mistakes, errors. You mess up, you can either become bitter or better. And if you blame other people, you become bitter. But
Mm-hmm.
if you accept that there's a lesson there, if you learn, then you become better. So it seems to me that maybe in part your success is making lots of mistakes, but learning from the mistakes of becoming better rather than blaming and becoming bitter. Is that
Oh,
close?
it's without a doubt, Martin. I 100% agree, and I've heard you in your speaking, and when you and I have had private conversations,
Mhm.
just speak to that whole theme, that whole approach to life, and I absolutely agree with it. It's things are going to happen in life. Sometimes
Right.
great things are going to happen for you, and we tend to want to take credit for that overwhelming success. Now, maybe to some degree it was us, but in a lot of ways it was, wow, did we luck out in that circumstance?
Right.
And the opposite happens. Sometimes awful things are going to happen, and we reach out to blame others rather than recognizing, you know what, sometimes crummy things just happen.
Right.
And in both cases, I think it's wise to introspect. What were my contributions to the success? And what were my contributions to the failure? What can
Yeah.
I do to be better prepared the next time these opportunities come along? Meanwhile, accepting life's going to happen and you just
Yeah.
have to get up, dust off, and drive on.
Okay. Now, for this next question, it might be a long answer with your, multifaceted jack of all trades approach to life. But
I think what you just said was I talk too much.
no, not that at all. But you've done a lot. The military career, your financial planning career. You mentioned dabbling in some other areas that became profitable for you. What I want to ask next is, what are you glad that you did in preparation for retirement?
Here I go with the adages again. I think I just found a topic for a book. Um, I share this with the officer candidates you and I used to work with.
Right.
I shared with my children and other people I've counseled over the years. The difference between a smart person and a wise person. A smart person learns from their mistakes. A wise person learns from the mistakes of others.
All right.
I heard that when I was real young. It really resonated with me. And though I haven't done it particularly well or on every occasion, I've tried to live by that mantra. I've certainly had to learn from my own mistakes. I've gotten really good at that because I've given myself ample opportunities to do so.
Mm-hmm.
But I've tried to learn from the mistakes of others as well. And the flip side of that coin is I've tried to learn from the successes of others. What made those people successful? And over here on the other side, those people that seem to have everything going for them, but they didn't get it done. What did they do wrong? Where did they fail that kept them from achieving success that they seem to be destined for? So I think for me, looking back on it all, and we could all come up with a laundry list of all the various things that we think we did right or we overcome things that went bad poorly. I think the biggest thing is recognizing at a young age, very much like you said a moment ago, we have to make positive outcomes, positive results from the things that knock us down. We've got to learn from our mistakes. We've got to learn from the mistakes of others. We've got to learn from our successes, and doing that in life, I think, is what kept me in a position always to stay in the ring.
Okay. Reminds me of another quote. I love quotations. I have a little book of quotations. One of the quotes in there
I've seen
says
it.
that, yes, says experience is the best teacher, but it doesn't have to be your experience. So there you go. Yeah. Learn from others,
Amen.
the good and the bad. Are there things
Mhm.
that now looking back, that you wish you had done better or more of in preparation for retirement?
Oh yeah, but you don't have enough time on the podcast to be able to grasp all that. There are the list of things I wish I had handled better is far, far, far longer than the things I did well. And I look back and say, good job, Jerry. That was the way to handle that.
Okay.
There are many things, but having said that, I don't regret anything because even the failures, I was smart enough to learn from.
Right.
And if there's a supreme failure amongst us as human beings, I think it's too often we get so caught up in our own egos and our own need to protect our value, to protect our sense of self-worth, that we're not willing to accept we make mistakes all the time.
Right.
We blow it all the time. And that's okay. Accept it, learn from it, make it part of who you are, get the scar, be proud of the scar, and move on.
Yeah, I'm sensing a theme here, Jerry, in this little conversation. It seems to be, I guess, make lots of mistakes, learn from them, and move on. And you can even be successful. And I think it's probably fair saying you are a successful person financially, that you can retire at age 45 and live a good lifestyle. And that's in spite of maybe making more mistakes or doing more things wrong than you did right, but then adjusting.
Oh, without a doubt.
And then turning those mistakes into that life lesson, into even, I used to call it, mistakes can be like the stepping stones on the pathway to success.
I would
get you across that river.
Yeah, and I would double down and say
Yeah.
mistakes are the stepping stones on your path
Yes.
to success.
Right. Awesome. Glad. So now you've been retired. How long ago? You said you're about 45 or 43. How
What was the
long ago?
question again?
Sorry, for how long have you been retired?
So I'm 58 now. I've been retired for about
Okay.
a dozen to 15 years, somewhere in there.
Okay. So how is retirement the way you envisioned it?
You know, in all honesty, it's actually better than I ever envisioned it. And
Oh,
this from a guy who counseled people for a few decades on how to achieve retirement numerically, financially,
right.
but also the functional and the emotional, perhaps even the spiritual elements involved in retirement and trying to walk that path. From a guy that was very uh, not trying to blow my own bugle here,
Right.
but I was a paid expert when it came to retirement. That was my
Right.
job,
Right.
and I was very successful at it. I'm the kind of guy you went to if you really wanted the bottom line on that. And even from that position, retirement has turned out to be bigger, better, more than even I anticipated it to be.
Wow. So you had a good clear picture of what others could expect and would go through and experience. So you were definitely exposed to all that, and yet it's better than you imagined. Can you give us maybe one or two examples of things that are better than you imagined?
Let me preface that question with this.
Mhm.
There's kind of a mood, a feeling amongst all of us that what you're aiming for in life is happiness. Something
Mhm.
I picked up along the way is, at least in the world according to me, you shouldn't aim for happiness. Happiness is elusive. That's a hard thing to get, and it's definitely a hard thing to have all the time. I think a better target to aim for as a natural state is contentment. Be
Contentment.
content with your life. Be comfortable with who you are and where you're at and the circumstances around you. From a place of contentment, which is far easier to achieve and maintain, you're
Mm.
you're in a better position to handle life's challenges when they come, and you're in a better position to see opportunities for happiness when they come and pursue them. So with that as a backstory, I've always kind of aimed for contentment in life,
Mhm.
and it's very much what I've enjoyed in retirement. The home that my teenage daughter and I live in, we love our home, and we're always making little improvements here and there to make it more our home, and it feels like us. The friends and family and those we associate with that we have in our circle are people that make us content, that fulfill
Right.
us, that make our life better. Um, and then, of course, the experiences that we have in life. We've got stuff. Stuff's never been a big thing for either one of us. Certainly not for me. As an army guy, and you're traveling all the time, the last thing you want is
Right.
stuff. Um, but we do try to fill our life with experiences. So the things that have been particularly good in retirement come from that place of contentment. I have found that I experience a whole lot less of life's challenges now that I'm retired because I'm not really engaging in that part of life that has a lot of challenges, work
Right.
and competition and all of that. And I have found finding happiness in things is so much easier and so much more frequent because I'm coming at it from a place of contentment, and
Contentment.
I'm not shackled by I've got to get to work, I've got to achieve these things, I've got to get this list of things done.
Right.
So long answer, but coming from a place of contentment, there's a lot less challenge and friction in my life, and a lot more me finding life's happy moments.
Okay. When you say that about contentment, it reminds me of when I went through officers training and I was a guy being yelled at. I wouldn't call myself in those moments happy, but I was content because I
Yes,
knew
sir.
I was going to be challenged. I was going to grow stronger. It was going to be a good experience. At the end, I get that, that salute, those butter bars, and they start
Right.
calling me sir. So yeah,
You bet.
I wouldn't say I was happy, but I was content. So yeah, you can be content even through challenging circumstances.
Challenge and diversity. There's all sorts of expressions around, and you'll know them better than I do about your behavior during the day. Depending on how you behave and how you measure up against your own standards, determines how you sleep at night.
Right.
And for the most part in my life, I've always gone to bed and able to sleep good at night,
Hmm.
at least when it comes to measuring my own behaviors in the day. I've done knucklehead stuff, and
Right.
I've had to make up for it sometimes in the following days. But for the most part, the better part of my life, the majority of my decisions, I'm content and I can sleep good because you know what? I handled it the best way that I knew how or that I was able to or whatever. I
Right.
don't look back at life with much regret.
Okay. Another question I have for you then is how is retirement different than you imagined, or has it
So
been?
all of my friends, nearly all of my friends now are retired. And this is not an uncommon topic between us. And many of them who've worked hard all their lives, many of them are find some discontentment in retirement
Mm,
because they're not busy enough, or they feel like they don't have a purpose anymore. There's not some objective they're aiming at. I've found that for me, and I'm not able to participate in the conversations really well. I have found retirement to be better than I expected.
okay.
And I'm circling back to that contentment thing again. Being in the life rhythm, the financial circumstances, the physical environment that I've been able to create for myself during my working years has put me in a position where I go to sleep, I wake up, the things I do during the day, the people I interact with, the things I'm surrounded with, all of them reinforce my sense of contentment.
Mm,
And many of them make me happy. I didn't expect retirement to be as good as it has been.
right.
I'm getting ready to wrap up my sixth decade on life, and something I tell my children, I tell others, is each decade of my life has been better than the one before. Now I'm getting
Right.
older, and I've got a whole lot of injuries and stuff I took out of my military service. Um, but for the most part, I'm healthy, and I'm forward looking, and I'm positive, and life is good. I'm
Hmm.
enjoying aging. I'm enjoying experiencing more, and I'm certainly becoming more of a gray old man. Hopefully I'm becoming a wiser old man.
Right.
Uh, but I guess the biggest surprise for me in retirement is it's bigger and better than what I thought it would be.
Okay. It reminds me of a saying by David Bowie, rock stars, they know everything.
Right on.
But this really hit home to me. David Bowie said, aging is an extraordinary process where you become the person you always should have been.
Amen. No kidding.
So, you mentioned some friends that in similar circles and financially relatively well off, financially speaking, who were kind of frustrated or maybe a little bit disillusioned with retirement. Does that go back to what you were saying, just about you're able to find contentment and they're not? Or
I I think that's precisely it. Um, I used to use an expression in my working years. People would comment in the early part of my working years, "Man, you're the Energizer Bunny. You never
right.
stop. You're always going and bouncing off the walls, and you seem to
Yeah.
always have energy and a mission." And then in my later working years, people would comment all the time, "You never break a sweat. You seem to
Right.
always be where you need to be, getting things done." And they're all, "How do you do it?" and all that. Um, I would, and that my flippant answer to both of those circumstances, the early and later parts of my careers, were I'm working very hard to be a lazy man.
Hmm.
And I had that, fortunately for me, I had that understanding, that vision, if you will, early on in life, that I'm doing all this now while I've got energy and youth and I can take the blows and all that. I'm doing all this now because I want to be done doing this as soon as I practically can.
Okay.
And I want to live a life of contentment. I want to live a calm, almost spa like life.
Mm,
So for them, it was, I need to achieve this dollar figure,
right.
or I want all of my debts paid off and I want to own a vacation home, or after the kids are out of the house, or what. It was some sort of life event that marked retirement. And
Mhm.
it was never a life event that marked retirement for me. The closest I ever got to that is, gee, wouldn't it be great to be in a position to do whatever we want once the kids are out of the house? But
Right.
there was no firm date or firm event. For me, it was, I want to wake up one day and realize you did it.
Mm,
As you look at your circumstances and everything around you, take a deep breath, and you've arrived at self-sustained contentment. You
right. Right.
can work if you want to, either voluntarily or for profit. You cannot work if you don't want to. Your financial needs are met. Your physical surroundings are as they ought to be. The people you have in your life and your circumstances are as you'd like them to be. You've reached the state of contentment.
Mhm.
So now you can retire.
Yeah.
It wasn't a target event or number or dollar amount.
Now, but I get the impression though that, okay, so you've reached a state of contentment at the ripe old age of, 45 or 43, whatever, mid 40s. But I think you were kind of content during the whole journey. On your pathway towards contentment, you were already content, or at least you were constantly working on that contentment through life's ups and downs, a couple divorces and I'm sure all those
Right.
challenging knucklehead moves, you were still content. as you try to achieve contentment. That makes sense.
You're absolutely right, and I think that's a mind state. I'm trying to reach for some other great axioms or quotes. My goal is to offer more of them on this podcast than you do.
Okay.
So,
Good luck.
but there's two there's two I'm reaching for right now, and I'm not quite grasping them. Maybe they'll occur to me later. But yeah, it's so much of life is a mindset, and I'm
Mhm.
sounding very kumbaya and magic crystals and wonderful magnets and all that. It doesn't come from. I'm a very practical black and white person.
Right.
I'm a very bottom line person, and you know that from all of our
Mhm.
interaction over the decades. But I think that's a method that you interact with life, you handle life. It's a method by which you assess the things that you're seeing or that are coming at you. That
Mhm.
doesn't also have to be how you process or how you feel, how you experience life.
Mhm.
I've always tried to experience life from a place of contentment, calmness. It served me very well in combat when all hell is breaking loose in combat.
Right.
Um, the more calm you can be, the more likely you are to survive it. But as a
Yeah.
leader, the better you're able to command the circumstances, try to get control of the situation, and repel whatever's coming at you, achieve your mission. You need to be able to find a way to be calm in those circumstances. Well, it's that way with
Yeah.
any of life's challenges and chaos. I was again fortunate to learn young enough and make that part of myself that every fight doesn't have to be a fight. There are a great many times in life where the fight that you've got to engage in doesn't actually require fighting.
Mm.
And to the degree that you can avoid the fight, you win. And if
Right.
the other guy gets to win too, that's fine. That it's okay if the other guy wins also. Too often and culturally, we find ourselves, not for the first time, kind of spinning down this vortex right now in our political culture. That we
Right.
adopt this view that it's not so much that I have to win, but by gosh, the other guy has to lose.
Oh, yeah.
Who
That is
cares about
so,
the other
so
guy?
true. So true today.
Yeah,
And it's
yes. So
sad.
who don't care about the other guy? Care about that you are in a circumstance where you can come out of it with a win or at least a minimized loss. And whatever happens to him is what happens to him.
Right.
Because you can't control any of that anyway. You can control your participation, how you feel about it, how you respond to it, what you're going to do next, all of that.
Yeah.
So I've always tried to have the viewpoint of, yeah, this is my veneer, and these are the tools I have to interact with life, and they can be harsh, and they can be hard, and they can be aggressive. But
Mhm.
inside myself, calm, content. Don't let things ruffle you,
Right.
and just breathe deep and keep driving forward. So I appreciate the observation, and I may be overplaying it right now, but I think there's something to what you said. I've always tried to be internally content.
Mm. I think I'm going to maybe respectfully disagree with one thing you just said a moment ago about when there's that disagreement. Well, we use politics. It could be whatever, even family relationships. And, you kind of say, well, who cares about the other guy? I think if we do care about the other person, we can build a longer term relationship, whether it's in the political arena, in personal relationships, business relationships. I want everyone to succeed and I want people to be
Yeah,
happy. So I'm not
you know,
trying to beat the other guy so I can get more. And if I get some, great. I get some more, awesome. And I have some level of success, but I want the other people to succeed too. Even if we disagree, I'd like them to learn from it or gain from it or somehow be better off because of our interaction. So,
Martin, I have to completely agree with you, and you said it better than me. That's
so,
exactly right. You do care
so,
about the other guy.
so you're agreeing with my disagreement. Awesome.
Right.
Okay. Hey, this has been really good. Any last words of wisdom for someone who's thinking about retirement, especially the empty nesters and the kids are gone and they're thinking, man, whether it's a year away or 5 or 10 years away, is now starting to be, more in the forefront. What would you tell them?
I guess the thing that comes all the different ways I want to say it, the item is the same.
Mm-hmm.
There was a great book a bunch of years ago, and I recommend reading it. It's a real great way to focus and a perspective at looking at retirement,
Right.
called The Number. And the number is about what is that dollar figure, and it's unique to each individual, that you need to
Mm-hmm.
achieve to be in the financial position to retire. Of course, that matters. It's what you do for a
Right.
living. It's what I did for a living. It matters. It's important. But retirement is not the number. So with
Mm.
respect to the author and what you and I did or used or doing for a living. Retirement is a state of mind. It's a place that you arrive at inside yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Spend time in your mind when you're alone with yourself. You're taking that shower, when you're laying awake in bed before you drift off, or when you first wake up, when you're on the drive, whatever it is. What does retirement feel like? What is the experience of retirement for you? Yeah, you're going to figure out the paying the bills and buying the RV and all that stuff. Those are numbers. It's math. Math is math. You'll get there. You'll figure it out. Retirement it's a state of being. It's a state of it's a way of living. Concentrate on that, not only as you're trying to achieve retirement, but to understand when you're there.
Right.
Far too many people are there, have been there. And sadly, there are a handful of people that never get there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Figure out what does retirement feel like? What is the experience of retirement for you? And that's how you're going to know when you're closing in on it. And when it's about time to hang up your spurs and say, you know what, I did it. Now I'm going to sit back and look really smart while everybody else keeps working.
Okay, awesome. Jerry, thank you so much for your time. This has been a great interview. And I look forward to the next time we get together, you and I.
Hey, you and I, thank you so much, Martin, for inviting me on. And I look forward to seeing a whole bunch more of these.
All right. Okay. Bye.
I know.
I hope you enjoyed the interview and learned something that you can use in your own retirement. If you've been retired for more than 1 year and you'd like to be a guest on the podcast to share your story, please visit storiesofretirement.com. If you have a question about retirement, or maybe you're not even sure where to begin, I offer all of my listeners a 1-hour consultation at no charge. Whether by phone, video call, or right here in my Orem office, I'll do my best to answer your questions, to help you avoid costly mistakes, and then put you on the pathway to a successful retirement. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, at Achieve More Retirement, our goal is to help you live your life on purpose. Please share this video with others.